Hi, my name is Karma. I have a paranormal story to share, and I apologize in advance because it's a long one. During the summer of 2020, my friends and I were driving home from McDonald's late at night when we saw something strange on the side of the road. It was clearly malnourished. Its ribs were visible, and its arms and legs were unnaturally long, far beyond what should be physically possible for any humanoid. Its skin was gray, and it was crouched beside a telephone pole. As soon as I saw it, I hit the brakes and turned on the brights to get a better look. The creature lifted its head, and in an instant shot up the telephone pole. So fast, it almost seemed to zip straight into the sky. None of us looked up to search for it. We just drove to one of my friend's houses, which was about 500 feet away from where we had seen it. For the rest of that summer, I felt an overwhelming sense of paranoia. I've done a lot of research since then, trying to understand what I saw. Over time, I've developed many theories, but they have all blended into one. I don't claim any of this to be factual. It's all based on personal experiences and stories I've heard from others. I call these creatures crawlers. I believe they share traits with being like flesh gates, shapeshifters, and mimics. In my opinion, crawlers can take on any form they choose, often appearing as loved ones or pets. I also think I've been seeing them since I was a baby. I have a vivid memory of being in my crib and feeling uneasy when certain family members looked at me. Their faces were blank, completely void of expression. Even as a baby, I somehow knew that wasn't normal. One experience I'll never forget happened when I was 17. I was crying in my room, and my dog sat beside me, tilting his head and whining as if he was concerned. I told him he was a good boy, and he wagged his tail, panting happily. A little while later, I decided to go outside for some air, but when I opened the door, my dog was standing on the porch, chained to his collar, waiting to be let inside. The layout of my house made this impossible. My dog would have had to walk downstairs with me because I went straight to the door. I screamed and collapsed, sobbing even harder. The dog outside strained against his chain, desperate to reach me. What scared me the most was that the dog upstairs had shown concern too. They had both reacted the same way. My dad heard the commotion and rushed over, letting the dog inside. I tried to explain what happened, but all I could think was, if my real dog had been outside the whole time, then whatever had been in my room wasn't him. Later, I talked to some people in town about the encounter. To my surprise, I heard two stories describing a creature exactly like the one I saw. Both incidents happened within half a mile of my experience, but they were at least 15 years apart. Curious, I started researching and found information about crawlers on Reddit. Apparently, they're believed to inhabit old cave systems. Since my town was once a mining town filled with abandoned mines, essentially man-made caves, I checked out a map of the area. Sure enough, there was an old mine dump near the spot where we saw the creature. The same area where the other two sightings had taken place. My life has been full of paranormal experiences, and I've been dying to share all of this with someone. If you're interested, there's a subreddit called Crawler Sightings with drawings that look eerily similar to what I saw. I'd like to start by saying this isn't my story, it's my aunt's. This took place in Mexico in the 80s. My aunt was known for being rebellious and a huge risk-taker as a teenager. My mom, on the other hand, was the complete opposite, a total rule follower and pushover. One day, My aunt had some of her school friends over, and my mom, being the annoying young sister, insisted on hanging around them. It started off innocently enough. They did each other's hair, looked through magazines, and just hung out. Suddenly, one of the girls pulled out a homemade Ouija board from her bag. Everyone laughed and got excited to try it out, except for my mom. She was scared and kept insisting it was a bad idea. She told them they shouldn't mess with that kind of stuff, but of course, they dismissed her concerns pretty quickly. The girls began playing with the board, not taking it seriously and almost mocking the whole idea. They asked things like, "What's your name? Why won't you talk to us? Are you shy? What do you look like?" Eventually, nothing happened, and they got bored and moved on to something else. Later that night, around 2 or 3 a.m., my aunt woke up suddenly with a horrible sinking feeling in her stomach. She was facing the wall with her back to the rest of the room. She shared the room with my mom and 2 of their brothers. As soon as she woke up, she realized she couldn't move. She had experienced sleep paralysis before, but this time was different. The feeling in her stomach made it worse. Terrified, she lay there for about 10 minutes when she suddenly felt her bed lower, as if someone was slowly sitting down beside her. At this point, she was hyperventilating and silently praying she could move, scream, anything. Then, she heard a male voice that didn't belong to her siblings or her dad. The voice said, "Turn around. Didn't you want to see what I looked like? Turn around." His tone was mocking, exactly like she and her friends had been while using the board. A few seconds passed, and finally, she let out a blood-curdling scream, waking everyone in the room. The lights came on, and the entire family rushed to her side to see what was going on. She dismissed the experience as a bad dream, but the next day she told my mom everything. To this day, my aunt is terrified of Ouija boards and constantly urges me, my sister, and my cousins to stay far away from them. My name is Ziki. I've been listening to you read your subscribers' scary stories for a while now, and I felt it was finally time to share some of the odd things that have happened to me over the years. To start, I think it's important to mention that I have Asperger's syndrome and hypersensitivity, which means I pick up on things most people overlook. I'm also an empath, so I can sense when something isn't right. My older sister has the ability to sense when someone's presence is near, and my late maternal grandmother had a knack for knowing things before they happened. Our grandmother used to say there was a touch of fae in her side of the family. She came from the McCarty family, so our Irish roots run deep. The first experience I want to share happened when I was in 4th grade. My parents were going through a divorce, and I was struggling in school due to the stress of my family breaking apart. One day, a classmate I was working with on a science project asked to meet me after school to discuss our outline. When I met him in the boys' bathroom, I immediately felt something was wrong. That feeling was confirmed when I looked into his eyes and saw pure malice staring back at me. As I turned to leave, he grabbed my arm and refused to let go. Suddenly, I heard the sound of wings flapping outside the window, followed by loud cawing. Crows began flying at the bathroom window, banging against it until the glass shattered. The crows flooded the bathroom, scaring my classmate so badly that he let go and ran off. I went straight to the principal's office and told her what had happened. She assured me she would handle everything. The following week, my classmate was transferred to another school. That Friday, after school, I returned to my dad's house and found 3 crow feathers lying on the swing set in the backyard. Another time, I was walking with my sister to the post office near my dad's house. As we passed a brick building on the corner, I noticed a strange man following us. He looked disheveled, and his gaze was fixed on my sister. The way he looked at her was unsettling, almost as if he were sizing her up. As we approached a grove of trees, I noticed something unusual. Typically, the trees were home to robins and blue jays, but this time, sparrows and cardinals had gathered as well. When the man passed under the trees, the birds suddenly attacked him. My sister scooped me up and ran the rest of the way to the post office. She told the woman at the counter what had happened and called our dad to pick us up. Later that day, my dad told us that the man had recently been released from prison. 3 days later, we learned that the man had been severely injured by the birds during the attack. He contracted bird flu and was found dead by his parole officer. When I returned home, I found 4 feathers on the swing set, 1 from a robin, 1 from a blue jay, 1 from a cardinal, and 1 from a sparrow. After my paternal grandfather passed away, I became deeply depressed. I missed the stories he used to tell me whenever we visited him and my grandmother. One afternoon, my grandmother and I were sitting on the patio swing, eating homemade strawberry cherry ice cream, our favorite. I finished mine and rested my head on her lap while she finished hers. As I lay there thinking about the last time I had ice cream with my grandfather, a white dove landed on my hip. The dove began preening itself, and a single white feather fell to the ground before it flew off into the willow tree nearby. My grandma smiled and told me that Grandpa had once promised he would visit us after he passed, in the form of a white dove, leaving behind a feather. Hearing that brought me a sense of comfort, and I held on to that feather as a reminder of him. The most recent incident happened over 4th of July weekend when I went camping with some friends. On the first night, an owl landed near our campsite. My friends, trying to scare it off, started yelling. One of them threw a pebble, but he miscalculated and hit the owl in the chest. The owl screeched and everyone panicked, retreating to their tents for the night. I wasn't awake during the commotion, but one of my friends texted me to explain what had happened in case I got up early. Later that night, I found the owl while tidying up the camp and checked on it periodically to make sure it was okay. By morning, it had flown up into the trees. Well, the following night, as the adults told ghost stories around the fires, the kids became scared. To calm them down, I sang them a Japanese lullaby my great-aunt used to sing to me. When I returned from the showers later that evening, I slept peacefully. The next morning, I woke up to find everyone huddled at one end of the campground, staring behind me. I turned around and saw 5 owls perched around my tent. A snowy owl, 2 screech owls, a great horned owl, and a barn owl. When I calmly told them they could leave, they all flew off at once. After returning home, my stepdad called me outside, and perched along the porch railing were 24 owls. Since that day, I've noticed birds following me wherever I go. Hi Daisy, my name is Lori. I've been watching and listening to so many stories for a long time now, so I thought, why not share one of mine? I was born into a Pentecostal household and have witnessed all kinds of terrifying and unsettling things, from demons and evil spirits to exorcisms. At our church, the women take turns cleaning the temple. This particular week, it was my mom's turn. Typically, the temple is empty when we clean it, and I've always hated going alone because the building is so large and dark in places. We would only turn on the restroom lights to clean, and the rest of the building stayed dark. On this day, my mom left the room in the church kitchen and asked me to go get it. To give you an idea, to reach the kitchen, you have to walk down 2 long hallways. At the end of the first hallway are the pastor's offices, which are pitch dark even though it had glass doors and walls. As soon as I opened the restroom door, I felt a cold wave hit my face, and chills ran down my spine. I immediately told my mom that I did not want to go alone. Something felt terribly wrong. She told me to brush it off and not to be afraid because God is with me. Reluctantly, I left and hurried to the kitchen to grab the broom. I kept my eyes down the whole time because if something was there, I didn't want to see it. Daisy, when I tell you how horrible I felt walking back, it was bad. I felt sick to my stomach and wanted to puke. I practically ran back to the restroom. On the way, I felt something behind me. I spoke out loud saying, "Cualquier espíritu maligno que esté aquí, no tienes derecho de estar en este templo. Te reprendo en el nombre de Jesucristo y regrésate de donde viniste." I finally gathered the courage to look behind me, and there, in the pastor's office, I saw a figure standing while the glass door slowly moved, as if someone had just walked inside. I ignored it and didn't say a word to my mom. The following weekend, we had church on Saturday. After the service, our pastor told us he needed to speak privately to the congregation, and the live stream was cut off. We all glanced at each other, confused. Apparently, one of the brothers had been mowing the church lawn when he saw a man dressed in all black. Black shoes, a short black dress, and black leggings. The man was performing some kind of ritual, moving in strange patterns. The brother immediately called the pastor, who rushed to the church. This happened on the same day my mom and I were cleaning. The pastor told us the man was a brujo performing a ritual to stop the church from growing and to weaken the elders who constantly prayed over it. The brujo admitted that while he couldn't physically enter the church, he managed to spiritually roam the halls. That same man later accepted Christ into his heart. But to think that the brujo was the figure I saw and felt chills me to this day. He had been watching our every move. It's terrifying to know the power that brujos can hold, but even more comforting to remember that God's power is far greater than any evil spirit. Amen. So that was it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you to everyone that shared their spooky stories with all of us to hear. We truly appreciate it. It gives us an escape of reality that we desperately need at times. And I would just like to take the time right now to talk about what's going on in California, what's going on in North Carolina. People have lost their homes, whether it was due to fires or a hurricane. It's devastating. No one should lose their home, and we need to come together to help each other out when devastating things like this happen. So I will leave links, donation links down below if you're blessed enough to be able to help, wanting to help, please. And if you're not able to help financially, prayers, sharing these links is as important. So I'll leave those donation links in my description box just in case you guys would want to help out. I'll leave it at that. Los quiero mucho. I hope you guys are doing amazing. And I'll see you soon. Bye.